Hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith with an update on what's happening with potential tropical cyclone number 4. And if you're not familiar with the terminology, what is a potential tropical cyclone? So I'm going to bring the graphic up so you can just look at this thing. It's basically a tropical wave. So it's not a depression or a storm yet, but we think it's going to become a depression or a storm. So the National Hurricane Center is going ahead and putting out advisories and putting together a forecast cone and so you can see the track of the system. And of course we have our own models too. And we're going to look at all that here in a special edition of Next Weather here with a 7 o'clock advisory down from the National Hurricane Center. Still a potential tropical cyclone. It's gradually getting better organized. Now the wave is over land, so it's hard for it really to get going, but we're seeing rotation in the mid-levels. And so you can kind of make that out. If you look at it, you're starting to see a little counterclockwise spin. It's subtle, but it's there. I'll bring it up full, and so we are seeing a little spin there over Cuba. It's broad in nature, maybe even a little elongated, but what that tells us is it's pretty likely that this will develop when it gets over the Gulf, and it should fully do so as we head into tomorrow. So that's a look at it there. I thought I had that graphic up full, and I was over there just kind of looking off into the distance. But anyway, it is showing up as a potential tropical system, and it's an area of low pressure. It just doesn't have the characteristics of a tropical storm just yet. Okay, so let's look at some maps. Why not? All right, so we want to keep a close eye on this thing because it's going to be in our backyard. And this is what we're seeing. It's over Cuba. It gets into the eastern Gulf on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to gain latitude. It'll move north. There should be minimal local impacts here in the Mobile, Pensacola area. Right now, we're not under any tropical storm watches and warnings, and most likely this is going to affect the Florida Peninsula and perhaps the Florida Big Bend region with a lot of wind and rain. And so let's talk about the steering flow, because if you were watching Next Weather or Fox 10 News last night, or you were watching any of our coverage throughout the week, we were talking about how this could be in a little bit of an uncertain steering environment. And the reason why is we've got two areas of high pressure, one on the right side of your screen, one on the left side of your screen. And what we were thinking is, especially last night, that the Bermuda Ridge looked like it could be a little weaker. And so it would have less influence of the system. A lot of tropical systems are steered by that Bermuda Ridge. And that's one of the primary steering mechanisms for a tropical system. But we also have an upper level heat ridge over the desert southwest, and that too could affect the steering flow. In fact, the two high pressure areas could kind of work as competing forces to hold it in place. But what we're seeing is it looks like an upper trough is going to develop in the region on Saturday and Sunday. And that upper trough is going to pull this thing up to the northern portion of the Florida Peninsula, if not the far eastern Florida Panhandle. So the Hurricane Center's narrowed the cone some, and it's in line with what we're seeing with the models. But exactly where it comes ashore could vary quite a bit based on distance. It'll depend on where the low-level center forms and exactly where it emerges off of Cuba as far as where the landfall point will be. And this is critical because if it makes landfall in Florida's Big Bend area, it could be a very strong tropical storm, if not a hurricane. But if it makes a quicker track across the Gulf, then it's not going to have as much time to develop. So you can see it right there. I've got it up full, how the system is sandwiched between those two ridges. And we do expect the steering currents to collapse because the upper trough that is drawing it north will just be in place for a day or so. And by Thursday and Friday, that feature will start to weaken. And so right there, you can see the storm start to pause. We've got the Bermuda Ridge is backing off. The ridge from the west is expanding. The upper trough is lifting out. And so this could be just bobbing around in the Atlantic. Now, we were thinking it could be bobbing around in the Gulf, but that doesn't look like a likely scenario right now. We think it does get picked up enough by the trough to gain enough latitude to get it over into the Atlantic. And they have it up towards North Carolina on this particular model midweek. So, all right, let's look at the NHC forecast, and this was updated at 4 p.m. the National Hurricane Center, the main advisories come down at 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then at 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. So they alternate through the day. And the intermediate advisories, which is the one we just saw, normally just adjust the position and any changes with intensity, which we don't have. And you can see the track will keep it over Cuba, the center of the wave axis, what we think is the center of the area of low pressure, at least through the day tomorrow. But by tomorrow afternoon, it should be emerging out into the Florida Straits. And there's a closer look at it there. So 2 p.m., it's somewhere around the Keys, or we're just coming off the coast of Cuba. And then by Sunday, it'll be quickly moving north as the trough should be picking it up. And the deeper of a system it is, the more likely that trough will pick it up and carry it north faster. So we'll see who wins out as far as the models here, and I want to show you some of those scenarios. The uncertainty really is what happens with it in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina now, and we're not as uncertain about it affecting us. It looks like it's going to be to our east. So computer models, there's still some spread here, and you can see the range of possibilities. Because this thing is basically paralleling Florida's west coast, it could come ashore really anywhere from, down around Chokoloskee and the Everglades all the way up to Florida's Big Bend. I mean, you just have to look at the angle of the storm and the angle of the coastline. We are looking at it possibly beginning to put on the brakes sometime into Thursday and Friday. You can see the HWRF and some other models kind of stall it out. Others say, nah, the trough is strong enough, it'll pick it up and carry it along and up into the Atlantic. So that's where there's some differences of opinion down the road. The European model, we were watching this last night, is saying the same thing, that it'll be right near western Cuba, kind of merging into the Gulf by noon on Saturday. It has it moving up into the Big Bend region, possibly as a stronger system on Sunday night and Monday. And then it moves up and begins to meander off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina by Monday and into Tuesday, and Wednesday kind of hanging out there. And, we'll see. The other is the GFS model. So we want to look at that. These are the global models. There's some other models we have as well, and I'll show you those in a minute. But the GFS has it moving quicker and further, coming off the coast of Cuba a little further to the east. And so as a result, it brings it in more along the west coast of Florida and the far eastern Gulf of Mexico on Sunday. And then it moves up towards Georgia and the Carolinas on Monday, and then just kind of hangs out there. It could be problematic for Cape Hatteras and some of these other areas as it will finally start kicking out to the north as we get into the end of the week. So what about environment? Well, what we're seeing on Sunday is some wind shear, some moderate wind shear occurring because we have an upper trough building in. And there's going to be a ton of wind shear over the southeastern United States. But by Monday, the Gulf area, a little lighter shear environment as that trough departs, should be a pretty favorable environment for it to re-strengthen over the Atlantic. And then sea surface temperatures are scalding hot. We've got an 86-degree water temperature in the eastern Gulf. We've got 89-degree water temperatures at the good old Orange Beach buoy there. That's what that is, buoy 42012. That's right off Orange Beach, 89 degrees. So there's plenty of juice as far as the sea surface temperatures. Atmospheric moisture is going to be fairly supportive. We may get a little southwesterly wind shear, which could punch some drier air into the west side of the circulation, which again adds to the idea that we're probably not going to see any rain out of this. So it's likely going to pass to our east. So if we look at the list of names for this year, the next one on the list is Debbie, so most likely this becomes Debbie in the forecast. That's the name that we have for this possible system. So just want to give you a little in-depth analysis as what we're seeing. The reasons why it may go a little further east and a little more rapidly is because it looks like an approaching upper trough is going to pick it up, and the Bermuda Ridge a little stronger, so those things are working in our favor. And then we see the steering currents collapsing, which we expected to happen, but that may happen more into the Carolinas and Georgia and not so much in our area. But we'll let you know if we see some changes in there, because there always are changes with a tropical system. Of course, the closer you get in time, the more accurate the forecast gets to be. So, we're starting to feel a little better about this one right now. But meteorologist Nicholas Herboso will be in this weekend updating social media. There'll be updates on the app. And of course, I'll have another update on Fox 10 News at 9 and 10 p.m. But Nicholas will be around this weekend updating this. I'm going to be in contact with him if we need to ramp things up for some unforeseen reason. We're in position to do that here on Fox 10 News. So thanks for joining us for Next Weather. Have a safe weekend and try and stay cool with all these heat advisories that we're seeing in the area. We've got some really high temperatures this weekend and next week. Thanks for joining us.